Source is a podcast made by women for women. We're looking at the topics that are influencing women and the world they live in, and we're shedding a light on those topics. We're speaking with the national experts. We're bringing you the stories you're only going to hear here. Don't miss out on being in the know. Subscribe to Soul Source wherever you listen to podcasts today and leave us a review. This part's really important. That way we can continue to bring you the content you love each and every week. So buckle up, Soul Source Society, because we're about to get started.
I haven't had my hair colored for 4 months or more, sometimes 6, 8 months between appointments. And they'd say, and look, my natural color, I'm really great and I like it. And is there something we can do that will enhance my natural color?
Hi, welcome back. I'm Lisa Cruz, your guest host of Soul Source. As women, we all know when you find an awesome stylist, you've struck gold. Today, we're talking with a celebrity hairstylist who is shaking up the beauty industry in Melbourne, Australia. She opened her own salon during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic with a client experience unlike any other. We're speaking with Lauren Mackellar, owner of Studio Meta. Lauren, welcome to Soul Source. I am so excited that you are here today to talk to us about your journey in hairstyling, a stylist to the stars. So while we get started, I always love to understand more about your story, your personal story of how you came to be where you are today and that journey for you. So can you fill us in a little bit about your journey?
Sure. Well, I never really planned to be a hairdresser or a hairstylist. It was something that I fell into after I finished school. I started to study psychology. So that was something I think I was always naturally drawn to, wanting to do something that would help people and be surrounded by people all the time and having that connection with people all the time. So I started studying psychology and then realized I felt a little bit young and I hadn't had enough life experience and I needed a plan to sort of have a backup. So I decided to start doing hairdressing with the plan of maybe moving overseas at some point. And I thought, well, this will be something that will give me a lot of life experience. So I started hairdressing and loved the people that would come into my chair every day. And I fell in love with that kind of side of it. And I really developed my creativity. I guess I never really felt like I was as artistic or creative as a child. I suppose I had a good imagination, but I didn't feel like I had a lot of artistic flair. But that was something that really developed along the way. And after a few years of working here in Melbourne and working in different salons and getting different experiences, I had a girlfriend that was an actress and she wanted to move to Los Angeles, and the timing was really good for me to do the same. So I joined her and we went off on this amazing adventure. And over there, I got to work with some incredible talent, met some amazing mentors, got so much life experience. I guess that journey was probably more about life experience and building up resilience and strength within myself as much as it was about having these amazing opportunities and kind of adding things to my CV, I suppose. So it was an incredible couple of years, tough, but really rewarding. But while I was over there, I was flying back and forth to Australia every couple of months to see my clients here. I had a really beautifully loyal clientele that would wait for me to come back so that I could cut their hair every few months. And I suppose the regular coming back and forth made me realize, just get a little bit of perspective about what home was for me and what my priorities were in life. And the amazing things that I was achieving while I was overseas felt like this amazing highlight reel of my life. But at the end of the day, after I would have these incredible opportunities, those moments would kind of burn away, and I would think, okay, well, what's next? And the goalposts kept moving all the time. And I thought, I could stay here and do this forever because it's like Disneyland. There's so much to do, so much to see, and so much growth going on. But at what cost? My family was back here. My little nieces and nephews were growing up and I was missing out on things, and I didn't have like the support, or I didn't feel as grounded as what I would have liked. So I suppose, yeah, I guess I had a bit of an epiphany and just realized that the things that were important to me were, well, that I thought were important to me at the start, had shifted. So I moved back on a bit of a whim, actually, last March, just as everything was about to crumble, I suppose, which was very good timing. I got back to Australia and decided that the next step would be to open my own studio. So opened a business during a pandemic.
Which is absolutely crazy. I just have to interrupt, which you think about it. I opened Red Shoes during the Great Recession back in 2008, and I tell people that story, they're like, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? But I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And here you are, opened a business during the pandemic.
Yeah, I know. I think things just kind of flowed really nicely with that. And there was this chaos going around us, but this felt really right. And the space that we have here is really beautiful. It's very private and it has a beautiful energy to it. And when people come in here, they feel instantly relaxed. It's not like a busy, bustling salon with a lot of people and a lot going on. So I felt like it provided a place of retreat from what was going on outside, And when we opened, we were in stage 3 regulations, which at the time we were deemed to be essential workers. So there was most other businesses were forced to close, but for some reason hairdressing was decided to be essential, which we all kind of had a little bit of a laugh about, that we're essential. But I guess on reflection, when everyone's isolated from their friends and family and they can't see people that maybe they would have that contact with all the time, being able to come into a really beautiful, safe place where you can have a connection with someone was really valuable to people. So it wasn't just about getting your hair cut, it was about having that physical contact with someone and having a conversation and doing the things that maybe that was really limited at the time. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but I'm really happy. Obviously, the way that everything's kind of unfolded has been really beautiful.
When you talk about being essential and what you just described, I would say it's essential, especially during the pandemic. Just that regular normalcy of going to a hairdresser. One other thing, with your background is you talked about you were studying psychology. And I think about that interaction between the client and their hairstylist. And to me, there's so much psychology to that because as the hairstylist, people are often telling you and speaking so freely. Can you comment a little bit about that, what you've experienced, especially during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, hairdressing is one of those very few things that when someone will come and sit in the chair, you're having intimate, or someone's in your intimate personal space, and they're not necessarily, one of your good friends or a family member. There's not many other appointments that you would go to regularly that has that kind of experience. And I think the fact of having physical touch opens up, people learn to trust, very quickly. And I guess the conversation, it just opens up and people, it's beautiful. I guess it's something about feeling safe and trusting and just knowing that they are being heard, whether it's about their haircut or how they want their fringe cut, but that flows on into the fact that you're listening,
Yeah, absolutely. Has there been a common theme or something that you've been hearing from your clients during the pandemic that you're like, boy, this is really impacting people in a very similar way?
Yeah, I think so my whole clientele, they're all women. And I guess the common theme, a lot of it has been, they've realized how resilient they are. They've gone from having, before COVID to then being at home and managing, maybe their partner or husband is at home now working and they've got the kids at home and they're doing homeschooling and they're running the household, but they're doing all of these things at the same time. they're dealing maybe with like financial stress, they're dealing with family and friends, trying to be the support for other people. And yeah, I think resilience has been, and realizing how strong we are has been a really big thing for sure. And also a lot of acceptance about what we can control and not control. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That,
realizing what's important really in life. You know, we used to make ourselves so busy with our beauty routine, our social calendar, all of these things. And when all of that was taken away and we couldn't go and have our regular haircuts or facials or things like that, and maybe realizing that that was so much time that maybe we'd like to spend it in different ways. You know, maybe the real important thing is our relationships with others and how we spend our time.
yeah. Yeah. I think there is definitely a silver lining. Well, a lot of silver linings to the pandemic that you might not have occurred to us before, prior to the pandemic. One thing too I wanted to ask you about is with the COVID restrictions, or with the restrictions in your salon, is it one client at a time? How has that changed for your business model?
Well, before COVID, the regular sort of salon setup would be for time management that you would generally have two people in at once. You would kind of alternate while someone's color was on, you might do someone else in between. And when we opened during the stage 3 lockdown, the regulations stated that we had to only have, because our space is quite small, only have 2 clients in, and my business partner and I decided that that would mean 1 each with the space that we have. And, you know, it might not be the most financially like profitable business idea, but we realized very, very quickly how important it was to have, or to maintain that long after. We'll never change that now. We've realized how important it is for people to come in and feel like we're present with them and to have these conversations. And they value that so much that we realize that nothing else compares to that feeling. People feel really valued. And I guess it really deepens the connection that we have with our clients. It's beautiful.
That's amazing. Like, who would have thought that you would make that change permanent? I mean, that's how you deliver your services. And now you're talking about that will always be the same, just that one-on-one interaction. Have your clients commented on that too?
Yeah. And that's really rewarding. It makes us, I mean, we love what we do creatively, but the thing that is the most satisfying is seeing the change in someone and seeing them leave feeling like they've just had a beautiful 3 hours or 1 hour in the chair with someone and had really enriching conversations, rather than having a quick conversation about the weather and how's everything going in your life. And all right, one moment, I'll be back in a second. You know what it's like when you're in a busy salon. And it's more relaxed, and people then feel like they can open up more and connect, which is really nice.
Yeah, I just speaking from my experience, my stylist has always kept it very limited, but I noticed like when I would go in and see her during the pandemic, and I love this. She just sits down in the chair next to me while my hair is sitting, and we just have these great conversations. And plus, I'm not on the phone as much. I'm not trying to shove in and do work while I'm at the salon. And it's like, it's just a huge sigh of relief to just sit in that space and you have that relationship and you can have a beautiful conversation. I just love that.
You know, you leave feeling just full, you know, having that connection.
Did you expect that when you were becoming a stylist, like that your psychology and that human connectedness would happen?
I didn't really understand the depth of it, to be honest. I knew that it was a part of it, but I didn't realize how important and how much a big part it would become. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool and powerful.
It is. And I suppose the interesting part of it is, you know, I started studying psychology, and now I feel like I've kind of gone full circle, and, you know,
Yes.
Not to feel like a psychologist or anything, but just the fact that I get to have all of the things that drew me to psychology and like the connection and making people feel better in some way is what I get to do every day.
Is there something, I think as women, we tend to be really hard on ourselves and unforgiving and very hypercritical about our looks. Is there something you want women to know out there? Like, stop thinking that way? Or is there something that you tell women about how they look, or what advice do you give women?
I see that after a good haircut or something that's made them feel like themselves again, this beautiful thing happens where their posture changes, their shoulders go back, the way they look at themselves or the way they're laughing and touching their hair, there's this beautiful radiance that comes out from inside, and it probably has nothing to do with the haircut. It's just the fact that they're feeling good in themselves. And that's the beautiful thing, that, you know, it's not necessarily about what's happening on the outside, it's what's radiating from the inside, which is really beautiful when they're feeling good.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And if they could just keep that ongoing, that they feel that confidence. And I just pictured as you were talking, like, how a stylist cuts hair and then they turn you around and your client faces the mirror, that's probably when they see it and all of a sudden put their shoulders back. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love that. So along the lines of creating a safe space for your clients, you had mentioned prior regarding a nonprofit that you had worked with. Is that correct?
I haven't worked with them yet, although we are bringing in a connection with a charity, so that when someone pays for their haircut, then some money will go to charities that we've selected. And one that I would really love to work with, I think it's an incredible charity, is there's one called Hairdressers with Heart, and it's started by a lady in Queensland in Australia named Sonia Colvin. And she's a hairdresser herself. She's been hairdressing for 35 years, and she began this charity or foundation to help support women that have experienced domestic abuse or any type of abuse.
Okay.
And it began because she was reaching so many people and helping people in her own chair, but felt, I think, that, as we're not trained therapists, that knowing how to connect her clients with a support network that they could get out and stay safe. And that's actually evolved now into a training module for hairdressing apprentices or people studying hairdressing, so that when we're learning the practical and technical side of hairdressing, that you can also choose an element to learn how to spot the signs of different abuses, and how to support the client in the chair, and also how to look after ourselves, as, to self-care for us, of knowing how to process the information that maybe we're given sometimes. So it's an amazing idea.
And that, again, comes back to like the synergy of all those parts and pieces, that you have that relationship with clients, and then you're able to offer that support network. And if they're in a bad situation, that is amazing. So you'll have to let us know if that progresses as well. So a couple other questions I just want to ask, and then I'm going to ask some, these are along the lines of more fun questions. So one is, what are the trends that you're seeing right now in terms of hair and color? What are you seeing or experiencing?
It's been really cool, actually. I've along the lines of the self-acceptance of when people came out of lockdown, I think people would come and sit in the chair and say, well, I haven't had my hair colored for 4 months or more, sometimes 6, 8 months between appointments. And they'd say, and look, my natural color, I'm really gray and I like it. And is there something we can do that will enhance my natural color? So that's been really beautiful, helping people sort of, I I don't know, get away from the idea that we have to cover up and have this idea around what beauty and aging is or what's acceptable. And so that's been amazing. There's definitely been a bit of a trend initially that we noticed after lockdown ended, that people wanted to have a big haircut. And I think it comes down to that really cathartic feeling of letting go of something that you've been hanging on to. And, you know, your hair holds a lot of DNA, we know that. And so that would mean that it holds on to like maybe trauma or things that we've experienced, and cutting the ends off and getting rid of it is I think really healing for people. And so there were a lot of big haircuts and a lot of going back to natural, accepting your natural and enhancing it a little bit, but not necessarily covering it up and changing it.
Sure. I can totally relate to the gray thing. As soon I had started the process of turning gray before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, for sure, I'm not going back to blonde. I'm not doing that action again. It's just more maintenance. And then I am just like, I am going to own this gray thing to the max. Like it's very liberating. I don't have to worry about the color anymore.
Yeah.
And I earned every gray strand on my head. So I am completely fine with that. So what you're telling me is gray hair is in and you're not seeing a lot of perms anymore. Any perms?
Well, actually, it's interesting you say that because I wanted to add that I think people realize that, wow, I used to spend 45 minutes straightening my hair or blow drying my hair. And I've really actually come to learn to love my hair in a natural state more. So they're like, is there a haircut we can choose that is something that I can just wash and go, you know, because it ties in with the idea of people realizing that time is, you know, that we could spend out with our friends, family, or doing things that really matter is more important than being a slave to our beauty routine.
Yeah. It's just freedom. It's liberating. You know, and one of the other things I was just telling my coworker today is that prior to the pandemic, I would go and get my eyelashes done every 3 weeks. And then after the pandemic hit, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go and get my eyelashes done. So again, I stopped getting my eyelashes done, and I loved the eyelashes, but the maintenance is hard. You know, it's ongoing. So silver linings to the pandemic, I'm always good about. So going back to your days in Los Angeles and your closeness to the celebrity world of Hollywood and everything else, do you have any cool celebrity stories or experiences that you can share? You don't have to use names, of course, but whatever you're comfortable.
I had some amazing experiences with iconic, household name celebrities. And I found that the bigger the profile, the lovelier they were. I had such positive experiences. Yeah. And one that I will never forget, I was very fortunate. I was working on the cast of an Alicia Keys music video. And it was one of those moments where, you know, I'd grown up listening to Alicia Keys as a teenager, and watching her perform in front of my eyes and seeing how naturally beautiful she is. I mean, she doesn't wear makeup. She embraces her natural beauty, and she was so warm and so friendly to everyone on set. She was not precious. She wasn't, there was no ego there. It was so refreshing. And I just was, I think I came home with fingernail marks in the palms of my hands. I was just like, Lauren, this is something that you will never, ever forget. And it was just so refreshing to see someone so successful that's been in the industry for so long, just to have she has such a positive message. And yeah, that was a really amazing experience.
So I want to go back to what you said. So you said the bigger the profile, like the more personable and nice they actually are, which is counterintuitive for, I think, how people would naturally think. Like, you think bigger celebrity, the bigger head, more demand sort of thing. And you're saying the opposite is true from your experience?
Yes. Yeah, I was very, I mean, I grew up in a small country town in Victoria, and, was moved to LA and Hollywood. And, there was an element of being, in awe of their careers and the talent. And I, all of my experience is very, very positive when I come to that really big celebrities. Yeah.
That's amazing. Any other good stories from your time out in the West Coast?
Oh gosh, I mean, I have many, but no, I'll leave it. They're all in the vault.
That's okay. You got to respect that whole client privilege thing. I get it. Any other surprising stories that you hear from your clients, though, overall, like during the pandemic, or things that they've experienced that you're kind of like, well, that's interesting or surprising?
I think I've had a lot of conversations with women around like, now's the time I'm going to change my career, I'm going to change my life. Or I've had time, I suppose, when life stopped being so busy, there was less noise going on around us. They've realized and had those moments of clarity around working on themselves, or furthering their education, or making changes in their lives in some way. Which is so incredibly positive. I know I've experienced the same kind of feelings, and I think that it's the power of sitting still and being with your thoughts in some way. I guess even when we resisted it, I suppose, after, when you let go and let the thoughts come to you, and those inspired thoughts are so important. So I think that's been something that we wouldn't have had. Our lives would have just came on the treadmill. So having the time and space to think through what's next. Which has definitely been a theme for sure.
Yeah, personally, I'm hearing the same thing. Like, I think this year has been a time of reflection. If you're not doing what you want to do, now's the time to make a change. And that's totally okay. Good for you if you have that space to make those changes right now. And I suspect we're going to see more of that in coming months. As you know, and I think it's easy to say that people are feeling like we're out of the pandemic, or the pandemic is done, but it's important to remember we're actually still in the pandemic, and changes are going to keep coming for a while. So it's going to be interesting. For you
personally, us to be a little bit more adaptable to changes as well,
yes,
the things that we can control. Yeah. And it's also nice, just tying back in something to add, is it's been really nice to see people get in touch with their creativity more. I think having downtime and not having our options of things that we would normally do to keep busy. I think seeing so many amazing artistic creations come out, whether it's in like in art itself, or painting, or cooking, or music, or and that's been amazing. I think it's so important for everyone to have some sort of creative outlet, and realizing that people had time to sort of get in touch and realize that they had maybe a bit of skill or talent, or maybe they just did it for fun, but expressing themselves creatively is also really cool.
It is. It's really important to get in touch with that side. What's next for you personally? If you look ahead a couple of years, is there anything else you want to try your hand at? You're now a business owner, an entrepreneur. What's next? Do you foresee anything else?
Yeah, my next goal is developing some product for hair products for hair growth, and different products to use at home to just make your hair as an individual the best that it can be. So that is in the pipeline.
Keep us posted on that.
I will.
Would love to hear. So, okay, I have a little quirky question with that. I have been reading up a lot on, I think it's biotin or biotin.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like legit? Does that help with hair growth?
Absolutely. It's an essential part of having healthy hair growth. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because I always am a little like, is that for real or not? And so good. You helped answer that question for me.
You're welcome.
Anything else you want to share with our listeners today as we wrap up this interview, which I love your personal story and your journey in terms of, like, you started out in psychology, and I think where you're at today is such a beautiful blend of that safe space and talking with people and being someone that is listening to them. Anything else you want to share with your listeners that, and again, remember, we primarily, it's a podcast for women. So is there anything you want to share and that women should know from your perspective and your experiences?
I think a big thing would be embrace your inner quirks, whatever way they come. If it's, whether it's down to your freckles or your wild hair or whatever it is, in your personality or anything, I think let it shine rather than trying to change it or cover it up or anything, because that's when you're at your most beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That is an awesome way to end the interview, Lauren, and I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And if you want to hear more Soul Source, subscribe to the show. We're available wherever you listen to podcasts. And if there's something you want us to talk about, we can do that too. We have a page. It's on Facebook. It's called the Soul Source Society. And it's where we interact with listeners. We get content ideas for future shows. We talk about past content. And overall, we just have a lot of fun. That's Soul Source Society on Facebook. We hope to see you there. Soul Source is brought to you by Red Shoes Inc., a leading agency that specializes in crisis and strategic communications, media relations, social media, and so much more. To learn more about Soul Source and Red Shoes, visit us at redshoesinc.com.